welcome to what is our first Changing Futures webinar. Hopefully, definitely not the last. You are welcome to introduce yourself in the chat box. Please be aware that there will be an opportunity to ask questions. Please put them in the Q&A box if at all possible, and we'll relay them to the participants at the end of the session. A quick reminder of who Changing Future is. We're a government-funded programme dedicated to improving local services for adults and young people who face multiple disadvantage. Our aim is to create sustainable change at individual, service and system levels and influence government policy and local commissioning by sharing the learning that we do. Today, we'll be talking about co-production. That is one of the three lenses that we put all our work through. So all our work is looked at through an EDI, equality, diversity and inclusion lens, a trauma-informed lens, and a co-production with lived experience lens. So today we'll be looking at how we can implement co-production in our work. Co-production is a way of working where organizations work in partnership with their service users and all people with lived experience to design, review, or deliver services. One of our ambitions at Changing Futures is to have a set of co-production principles that everyone in the city could subscribe to, and that would define what good co-production looks like. Earlier this year, we organised an event with organisations from all over Bristol to discuss what's good examples of co-production. And all together, we could produce a set of 6 co-production principles. These are now available on our website, and we're going to look at them in more details today. So I am joined today by Alex Collins, who is our lived experience lead, who will explain each of the co-production principles. I am also joined by Alexander, Tom, and SJ, who are 3 Independent Futures members, Independent Futures being our consultants with lived experience. They will share examples from their working practice of when these principles were applied and how that resulted in successful co-production. Please note that for accessibility and inclusivity reasons, really, the examples that we're going to share have been pre-recorded. So you'll see them, it's a video that I'm going to share with you, but there will be an opportunity, as I said, to ask questions at the end. And just put them again in the Q&A box. I'll see them and then I will relay them to our speakers at the end. All right, Alex, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. So back in September the 22nd, many of you came to the Beacon Centre, Bristol Beacon Centre, and participated in our co-production event. And the whole day was spent looking at co-production, what it means to us, what it means to our organisations, and how to implement it in our daily lives. And we had different activities throughout the day, and we had lots and lots of you people inputting into the day, explaining what co-production looks like from your point of view or your organisational point of view. And then what SJ and myself, or Sarah Jane and myself, and Independent Futures did between now and back then is we looked at all your feedback, we went through it, and we started to recognise themes coming through a lot of the writing and the suggestions that were written down on the day. And so then we came up with the 6 principles. So the first one is creativity. So creativity came strongly through our analysing of your feedback. Creativity was blatantly through there, and I suppose the reason why creativity came through so strongly is because of the diverse people that we work with and we work for, and when you're working with individuals and diversity, then you want to work with people in different ways to be as inclusive as possible. So thinking of creative ways, different ways of working with people came through the feedback a lot. So that's why creativity is our first principle, and SJ will now play the video.
So an example that comes to my mind instantaneously within IF Independent Futures is that of the style of hybrid meetings. So from my last job and the job that I've done before, when it comes to meeting, it was either solely online or it was in person previously, but then had to again move online because of COVID. But with Independent Futures, from just the 2 months that I've been with them for, to be able to have the opportunity where I can go into the office and be able to attend these meetings in person, or have the opportunity to be able to attend online, say if the weather's rubbish or I'm just generally feeling a bit rubbish on the day, bit rubbish myself on the day. It's nice to be able to have that opportunity to have a choice as to how I can engage with these meetings, you know, be it in person or be it remotely. So to be able to have that opportunity, to be able to have that choice for myself, I think is a really good example for creativity. I've also found when it comes to the hybrid style, the team meetings, for example, is that we'd always begin the meetings with like check-ins to begin with at the start of the meeting, where everyone can just generally say how they are feeling today, if they're feeling good, if they're feeling a little bit, you know, rubbish. And and then at the end of the meeting, you also have that debrief at the end of the meeting as well, where they can just share how they felt the meeting went, and if there's anything else that they wanted to discuss, you know, to be able to have that opportunity to share if they want to share, of course. So I think that's really good that you got that ability for people to be checked in on. And yeah, everyone gets an opportunity to be able to speak during the meetings. Some people may speak more than others, but of course, those that may not speak also have the opportunity, you know, they could be asked if they've got any thoughts that they wish to chip in, or with it being online, they can, you know, type in a message on the chat feature for, say, Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever it is, or just or email their thoughts afterwards as well. So you got those different forms of ways that they can engage in the meeting.
Thanks. So that was Alexander speaking a little bit on creativity. What else came strongly through on that day was relationships, and relationships as one of our principles of co-production. If we want to create system change and we want to do things differently and we want to know where the gaps are and really understand where we can do things better, then we need to have open and honest conversations. And we can't have open and honest conversations unless we get a little vulnerable. And nobody's going to get vulnerable with anybody unless they've already got relationships in place, and I've got a trust in place, and I've got a communication in place. So what came through on the day, the co-production day, strongly is relationship building, relational work, and really building them relationships, which takes time, patience, and understanding. And so we have another video of an example of that.
Another example that comes to my mind pretty quickly is just last month, I was involved in doing interviews for a link team engagement worker. And that was between, you know, Independent Futures and Second Step. And for that interview, we had the opportunity where I could have the meeting beforehand with those who I would be doing the interview with. So I got the chance to see who I'd be working with, get all those details, you know, what sort of the questions would be asked, when and where the interviews would be taking place, like who would be my lead contact for the day. And then, of course, then came the day itself for the interviews, and of course, having that The briefing beforehand of all these details made me feel confident going into it, so I knew exactly what to expect. And then at the end of it all, then having the debrief afterwards, getting that feedback. How do you think it went? All those, those post interview details and thoughts and such being shared. But what I remember still is the feedback that was received afterwards from the individual that we did the interviews with, said that they found it very helpful to have that lived experience, the individual's input with the interviews, and they said that they very much look forward to being able to do interviews with us again. So I thought, yeah, brilliant. Given the opportunity, I'd welcome being able to do the interviews with them again. So I think it makes a great difference for the fact that it's like it humanizes people to be able to get to know them beforehand. So then it's not just like you're going into a meeting, you're going into an interview, you're doing whatever it is that you're doing on the day, and you're not going in there completely blind. You don't know who you're going to be working with, you know nothing about what you're doing. To be able to have that chance, be able to be presented that opportunity to be able to build up the relationships beforehand, also makes you feel more confident, especially if you're an individual like myself that has social anxiety. You really want to ensure that you get as much pre-prep as you can going into whatever it is that I'll be doing. So again, being able to build on relationships is very important for myself, because again, it helps to build that confidence in the self and being able to ensure that I can deliver what is required for me for the day, and just really in general make it just a bit more of a warm and friendly experience, I suppose, as well. The fact that for the interviews, on the day, you have the at the end of the interviews, you sat on the panel and you're having that discussion with the other individuals that were part of doing the interviews as well, and the feedback, the input that you can the input they can input on what you thought of the candidate that he was interviewing, knowing that what you're saying is being taken on board, is being valued, your say is being valued, and just being able to have that relationship beforehand, knows that having that meeting that you've had beforehand with the individuals that you're going on to sitting on the panel with, means that you don't feel reserved in being able to share your thoughts, being able to share your opinions, your feedback on it. Again, it just makes the environment more of an open space, more of a warm environment to be able to work in.
Thanks, Alex. And thanks for doing those videos. It's never easy to sit online watching yourself in a video with 40 other people. So thanks for that. What else came through strongly through the day was another thing about resources, which we've had lots of conversations around, because, to co-produce with people of lived experience, or your service users or ex-service users, you need to resource it. And, a lot of the feedback that we got on the day, we had lots of different lived experience groups and lots of different people, service users and ex-service users, that presented on the day and told us about some of their experiences. And what came through a lot was resources where co-production has came in as an afterthought and it hasn't been resourced properly, and people have felt like they've been used a little bit, and some of the data that has come from that co-production isn't as authentic as it could have been, because it was just a tick box exercise, really. So resourcing co-production, all that process, all that projects, is really important, and it came through a lot on the day, and the difficulties in how to resource it and how to create the capacity in an organization to be able to co-produce, and the time and the money as well, and to be able to pay your participants for the time that they're spending on the work. All that is quite a conversation starter in our work at the moment. So resourcing co-production is vital, and it's really important. And I don't know who done the next video, but somebody will be speaking about that now.
Well, there's one of the teams we have in Bristol. It's still a relatively new team. It's called the Link team. We work in a co-productive way. They work with people rough sleeping, for mental health problems, caseload of up to 30 any time. And we co-produced work through the following ways. Firstly, helping them develop policy and criteria for the service before they took on clients. Secondly, we've put it together with them questionnaires, what we could ask clients, what they thought about their service, and we've done peer research with them, with the team, i.e. asking clients what they think of the service. Also, we've been on committees, panels regarding taking on clients that the team is considering, whether these clients meet the criteria, working with the manager of the Link team, as well as other professionals within that service when appropriate. And we'll be doing, that's an ongoing project. We're going to be doing more, we're currently doing another project with this team, and that's called the formulation leaflet. Formulation policies, where you look at the whole client's infrastructure, as it were, and their background and their history, and it's a service that the Link team are going to be providing hopefully soon, and we're working collaboratively, co-producing a leaflet for this new service that they'll be providing at present. And actually, I think myself and a colleague from it will be meeting members of the team face to face on their views on how it will work with clients. But also, we meet up with the manager of the Link team, I think on a monthly basis, to discuss how human resource matters are going, how they're recruiting staff, any obstacles they've got, how they can be solved, any problems they've got with clients, or any other dynamics that might be affecting their service. So that I would cite the Link team as probably one of the best examples of co-production at the moment, where those resources are being put in.
Thanks, Tom. So yeah, that was an example about resource working with the Link team. So the next one that came through on the day was ED&I. I'm actually on a mission to change it to EDI&A. Quality, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility, because I think accessibility is really important. I don't think inclusion covers it all. But anyway, that came through on the day. Diversity of opinion, experiences. I've been doing this a while now, and co-producing something with one lived experience person, and you're asking them to represent a whole service, I think it's a little bit unfair. You want to get diversity of opinion and diversity of thought about your service. So having as many people feeding into that process as possible is really important. EDI is also one of the lenses or one of the themes that run through Changing Futures. And so we have a whole EDI leaflet or stuff on the website where EDI has actually got its own 6 principles as well, and that goes for trauma informed. So I'm guessing it's Tom that's going to do the next video on EDI. No, it's SJ. Okay, so thanks, SJ.
Yeah, so myself and another IF member have been involved on another project with the Link team, which is to do with formulation and kind of a way of making sense of where people are in their journey. As part of that, there was going to be some formulation training offered to the Link team, and Sam from the Link team, who's the manager, immediately offered for us to be involved as well. So it wasn't like an us and them. They were very much encouraging us, if we would like to get involved and be included in that training. Now, for myself, there are a number of barriers to accessing something like that. So I find it very difficult to leave the house, and the training was face to face. And also it was an all-day training, and for myself that's not at all manageable. I can probably at most do a half day if I'm on a good day. So I explained these things to Sam, and he was really positive and said he would straight away look into whether I could join the training online, which was really great, because that would make it much more accessible. So on the day I joined the training online, and they were really proactive in kind of involving me in the space still. So I did feel really included. So when they were doing the slides, they would turn my screen towards the slides, but there was also some group work, and I was like a roving laptop, and they actually brought me into a group session, which was really, really good, because I didn't really feel like it was much different attending online to what it would be in person in terms of inclusion. I think the other thing is, like, I need quite regular breaks, and there was some content in the training that I felt like might be a bit too triggering for me, but they were really great about that as well. So whenever I said I needed a break, again, Sam, the manager, said he would sort of text me to keep me updated as to the different topics that they were moving on to through the training. So at any point I could dip back in and know what they were covering in advance. So again, I felt really included with that, and it just made it possible for me to attend that training, and it also made me feel safe in that training as well. I definitely didn't feel like an afterthought or like I was making things difficult. They just wanted to do whatever they could to enable me to get the best out of that training, I guess, and that day.
Thanks, SJ. So all these principles that we're talking about now, we have we've broken them down a little bit and wrote them in more detail. But for today, we're just kind of naming the principle and then giving you an example from an F member. But we can break it down a little bit more and get into a bit of a discussion after we've done this presentation. So the next principle is trauma-informed. It's kind of, for people in our sector, it's kind of obvious. You know, you're working with people that are clearly have had traumatic experiences in the past, and now they've come to you because they want to do system change and want to use that experience to create positive and long-lasting change. But in order to do that, we need to be trauma-informed. We need to be asking questions and asking people where they are in their comfort zone. Is this work going to be triggering? Is this work going to be detrimental to your recovery from wherever you're recovering from? So trauma-informed is really important, and I'm not going to guess who's on the video next, so we'll all be surprised with this trauma-informed video.
Me and my Independent Futures colleagues have been part of co-producing and setting up a new service called the Link Team, which works with people who struggle with mental health and homelessness. And as part of that co-produced work, we wanted to evaluate the service about 6 months in, but we wanted to make these evaluations really trauma-informed, so that we could make sure that as many clients as possible felt able to participate. So we looked very carefully about how to phrase the survey and also how to encourage participation by offering different choices. So our aim was to enable people to engage in a way that felt good to them and like it was a safe space. So we did this by offering lots of different choices about where we might meet people to plan these surveys and get people's feedback. And so we offered over the telephone, on video call, or in person. And if we were meeting in person, they were able to choose where to meet, which was a really positive thing as well. So hopefully it was kind of all on their terms. We also made sure to kind of try and think about what barriers there might be to people answering questions. So we included some notes like around the question, so that if someone was struggling to understand the question or they needed more prompts, then we could do that. And there was also the option to kind of participate in more of a visual way if people wanted to. I don't think many people picked that option, but again, it was all about choice and allowing people to have the space to decide how these interviews took place. So the survey itself was very much a really good example of co-production, and the space that we were working in was very trauma informed as well. So I think we were involved right from the beginning of the Link team project, but also of this particular survey. So we weren't brought in near the end or anything. And I think the reason we are able to work so well with the Link team is that we've worked with them over a long period of time, and we've managed to build up that trust together, so that I think everyone has the chance to contribute, and people feel safe to contribute and feel like even if perhaps what they contribute isn't used in the final product of the survey, that their voice has been heard. And I think that is really important to enabling good co-production and enabling safe spaces.
Fantastic. And what also came through quite loudly on the day through all the different presentations, conversations and feedback was sustainability. The sustainability of co-production, the sustainability of doing things differently, and working in trauma-informed ways and being inclusive and having the resources and all that, but how do we sustain all of that stuff? And I'm guessing, but I could be wrong, that it's Tom up next on the sustainability. Yes, I got something right today. Wicked. Thank you.
So far, I can cite, probably the best example I could cite is a peer trainee role we've got for people specifically of lived experience who could have a salaried position within the IF team, and gain further work experience to progress for a career either within services and move on to a more senior position, or gain general skills for the job market, and add to their CV. And I can cite an example of a former IF colleague who took was the first person to gain this peer role back in like late 2021, and he has since gone on to a more senior position, and I've been learning more skills, and I think it's got a very good future. We're just in the process of recruiting his replacement, and hopefully this will give the foundations with the right support for this person to get him just have the general confidence to fulfill themselves in the world of work, which they wouldn't otherwise have. So that, from an individual, or at least for an individual's perspective, I think is certainly a long-term sustainable policy it is being achieved and should be continued to be achieved. And I've seen that through other organisations where people, without actually having any experience, nevertheless have an interest in particular departments of work, and I've seen it with Second Step, are allowed to have proper starter jobs. They may be on minimum wage, but they're salaried, and they can get their confidence, be allowed to make mistakes, and work on from there. I hope more organisations do that in the future. I mean, obviously, the changing futures ideal is to have this, to have service change, the service changes we want rooted in the system, at least for the next decade after 2024, when the project comes to an end. But for it, we want to be, well, the aim is to be long-term sustainable, self-sustainable. It is a tall order, but it can theoretically be achieved. But we are going to have to look at getting a broader intake of clients. I mean, it's better known, and also probably going beyond just service providers within services, and looking at more, a broader employer base. Any employer that perhaps has problems with staff who are suffering from these multiple problems, such as drugs and alcohol, perhaps how to deal with the criminal justice system, mental health, homelessness. In theory, we could be used as consultancy to contribute with our ideas and policies on how to deal with particular individuals or groups in this section. Whether it works out in practice, that's another matter. But I think we will need to have to be generally self-sustaining. We will need a broader client-based commission working for us, as we presently have. But we'll have to see.
Thanks, Tom, and thanks, Alex. Thanks, SJ, for those videos, and thanks to Independent Futures, because you've done a lot of work on these principles between September and now to get us to this stage. So I'll hand you back over to SJ. Thank you.
I just wanted to say, well, first, thank you to everyone, but also Alex for introducing all the principles. Also wanted to say that you all each came up with your own examples. This was not prompted or discussed in advance. So I know the link team's been mentioned a few times, but it clearly shows that when you do it well, you know, it gets picked up. So yeah, I don't think we've got anyone from the link team in the audience, but we'll share the videos with them as well to let them know that they're doing great work. Right, so if you've got any questions, I'd say now is the time to share them. You can put them in the Q&A box. Just to get us started whilst people get over their shyness and start putting questions in the question box, I thought I'd ask you all, if someone wants to do co-productions, but they don't know where to start, what would you recommend they do? Alex, do you want to start? SJ, yeah.
I think part of it is being open to working in a different way. As part of our work as Independent Futures on co-production, we came up with a document called the Starter Guide to Co-production. And in that, featuring quite heavily was being open and showing respect, but also, I guess, being vulnerable as well, and just being really open and honest if you aren't quite sure what it means, because I think you can build trust that way. And you can kind of discuss it with the people you're working with, rather than trying to kind of pretend you know what you don't. And I think that's good on both sides. Although we've done a lot of co-production as Independent Futures, we don't know everything, and it will be different depending on who you're working with and depending what organisation you're working with, and also kind of what outcome you want might influence how you work together.
Thank you, SJ. Tom?
I'm muting myself there. I think I would say largely it's about communicating with your colleagues and finding out an idea of what you believe co-production is, because there may be different interpretations of what it is and how it's going to work, gaining trust, and being patient with one another, but ultimately setting a goal, a deadline goal when you're going to complete any particular piece of work. Because as you get nearer the deadline, people do forge together, build links, because you do have that common goal of producing this piece of work. So talk to one another at the beginning, get to know one another, ask what everyone's opinions are, because there will be slightly different interpretations and expectations, and there may be hierarchies within that co-production bubble. But ultimately, gaining trust, be patient, and then have that deadline, and bit by bit by bit, you will achieve that common goal. That's what we've done, and it does work. You think, how are we going to get there? But actually, as you get to know each other and understand each other, our pros and our cons, and that trust, then the hierarchical problems or any other problems do disappear, and ultimately you're fixed on that common goal of producing that piece of work, and it does get done. It does get done.
Thank you, Tom. It's worth also mentioning that IF produced a starter guide to co-production last year, or earlier this year. I'm kind of a bit lost with the time. very early.
Earlier this year.
Earlier this year.
Yeah.
It's just because we're getting so close to the end of the year. But yeah, earlier this year there was a starter guide to co-production, and that is available on the Learning Hub of our website. Alex?
Yes, sorry, I was just looking at Kate's question. So Kate's asked, what has happened practically in Bristol as a result of these 6 principles being co-produced, and also asked, how did you get all the right and needed people to attend on the day? So I'm probably best placed to answer those questions. So we got a lot of different people to attend on the day. Did we get all the people we wanted to get on the day to attend? Probably didn't, but I think we had samples from everywhere we needed. So we had commissioners from Bristol City Council, we had policymakers from AWP, we had lived experience from AWP, we had representation from 125 Next Link, plus lived experience from both those organizations. We had Independent Futures. We had there was people there that were there was people that wasn't there that could have been and maybe should have been there. But we had like 90 people, nearly 90 people on the day. And I think it was a really good sample of different organizations across Bristol, both statutory and the voluntary sector attended there. So I think we did have a good cross section of Bristol, but yeah, there could have been different people there. There could have been more people there. But it was a really good day and it was a really good event. What has been done? So we had commissioners there at Bristol Beacon Centre. We had people from Changing Futures nationally. So people came from the national programme. And what we've done so far is we've discussed these principles. We've discussed them with lots of people that make decisions. We believe in these principles, we believe in Bristol, and we believe in co-production because a lot of us have been doing it for the last 4 or 5 years. And so what are we trying to do? We're trying to make them into kind of a standard, maybe not a policy just yet, but a kind of a standardization across the system. If you want to co-produce and you want to co-produce well, then you probably want to be doing it this way, or you maybe can do it another way. But what we really wanted to do was kind of share that co-production is already happening in Bristol and is already good practice in Bristol. People across Bristol are already doing this stuff. And now it's just linking that up a little bit and kind of having some kind of standards around working with lived experience. So that's where we are now. We are going to put on another event in April, and that's, I suppose, where we're going to try and now take it to the next level and start getting people to start commit to some of this stuff, get organizations to commit to some of this, whatever they can commit to. We understand that it's a lot, it takes a lot of resources, it takes a lot of work to co-produce your service or your organization. So it's really making them tools available for people to be able to start doing this stuff. I hope that's kind of answered your question, but we're on the way, Kate. We're on the way of kind of making this a thing.
SJ?
Just following up on that question, really. So, Alex, you said sort of 90 or so people attended the event, quite a broad range of different organisations, which is great. And obviously there's another event kind of coming up, but how did you encourage people to attend the event? How did you advertise it? Like, because some people might not have heard of what co-production is at all, whereas other people might have much more experience in it. And so I guess trying to make sure it kind of is suitable for all as well must have been quite challenging. So yeah, I guess, how do you plan to kind of encourage people to attend the next event? Was there anything you learned from the first event where you think, okay, we're going to do this differently?
So planning that event, how long did it take us? Took us about
Wow.
14 weeks. Took us about 14 weeks, about 3 months to plan the event and get out some of the messaging and get out some of the invites and stuff like that. The first thing we did is we went to the people we knew that co-produced in other organizations. That's the first thing we did. We went to different organizations that have lived experience, groups in-house, or they've got an identity in co-production. And so we went to those groups and said, first thing, do you want to present the way you co-produce at an event we're thinking about putting on in September? And then there was loads of back and forth conversations over email and in person on how that would look. It took a lot of people to put on the event, and Sarah Jane done a lot of the logistics and communication and invites. Not just that as well, we had people like Kirsty, who's no longer with us at Changing Futures, that done a lot of work around some of the admin side of that stuff. But really it was going to the people that we know co-produce, and not just co-produce, but they believe in it, and they believe in the lived experience voice, being very influential in the design of services. So we went to those people that were passionate about it and got them to present. And then off the back of that, fortunately with Changing Futures, as you know, SJ, we've got people in Bristol City Council, decision makers in Bristol City Council that are part of what we do. So then, because we've already got them relationships to some of the Bristol hierarchy, then it was easier to invite some of them people to the event because then relationships already existed. But yeah, it was getting people that do co-production to speak for it.
I think Alex is not giving himself enough credit here because he did an awful lot of outreach work as well, trying to get people there. He actually went out to meet organizations to try and get them there on the day. I'm going to move on to the other questions because we've got a few more that have come in. And the first one, Alexander, I'm going to put to you because you're kind of fresh out of it. Was there any particular training or development activities that was helpful for people with lived experience in order for them to engage in the process of co-production? Now, Alexander is one of our newer IF members and has literally just received the IF training. So I thought I'd put it to you first and then put it to the rest of the panelists. Do you want to talk on that?
I'm going to cast my mind back now, even though in comparison it hasn't really been too long ago, really. I think what comes to my mind is I'm comparing Independent Futures to my other job, which I do as well in mental health services and whatnot. But one thing that I can definitely see as a contrast between the two right off the bat is that it seems that like co-production within Independent Futures is baked into the service. You know, it's not something that's separate and then is brought in. It's something that's there right from the get-go, and that's really good right from the start for that to be, you know, front and center. But also, you know, you get the conversations, the relationship buildings, the communication. That's always important. Ensure that they've got that communication going forward to ensure that co-production is always involved with all the projects, lines of work, whatever it is that's going on. Communication is key. I always feel like I have to emphasize that communication is key, because if you've got no communication, then it can all just, you know, get a bit wild, get a bit hectic. So it's ensuring that communication remains, building on the relationships as well, just like what I said in my video, because then that encourages people to be more open. It helps to be able to build closer working relationships and even friendships to an extent, I suppose, as well. And because, you know, you're feeling confident around who you're with, then you feel more able to open up. Again, if you're like a naturally reserved person like myself, if you've got that relationship building, then you can be more open, you can get more involved in all the aspects of co-production, and it just comes naturally. So that's something that I want to say about that.
SJ, Tom and Alex, because you used to be independent futures as well, was there any particular training or development activity that was helpful to you to engage in co-production? Tom?
I think just, I mean, it sounds incredibly basic, but fitting on what Alexander was saying, you just attending with people who you've never met before or not met often, listening to the manager. But at the end of the day, we in the training, we do take active participation in particular exercises. We are asked what we think, give our own views. It's treated much more equilibrium. Or the dynamics of a much more, there's an equilibrium of dynamic. There's an equilibrium there, which wouldn't necessarily otherwise be in a teacher to student relationship. I think we are. I know it sounds a bit cheesy, but we're stakeholders in our training, in our development, and I think that's the foundation of co-production. In being an active stakeholder in your own professional and personal development. Yes, there are certain hierarchies outside that bubble of co-production, and of course the training itself is provided by management, but those aren't emphasized during the training. And it's looking how we deal with certain strategies, how we work with people, very senior people within the council, Bristol City Council, other organisations, how we can contribute, but at the same time, show how we can add value, but while being humble in our own presence. I mean, not to be overbearing. Being aware of different dynamics around the table. Yes, it's co-production, so the hierarchies aren't there, but also allowing other people to speak, contribute, and then contribute ourselves when appropriate to do so in our role. Because although we're in a co-production bubble, we all still have different roles, and we be aware of those different individual dynamics within that bubble. I think the training helps stimulate that thought in the future work that we do.
I'm going to go to Alex and then SJ.
Yeah, just quickly. So at Independent Futures has been resourced. So it's been resourced under a previous partnership, and it is resourced under our partnership. For us to be Changing Futures, we had to integrate co-production into everything we did. That was part of the deal in building this partnership. It had to have co-production, EDI, and trauma-informed running through everything. So Independent Futures is resourced, and that means we have staff. So we have Corrado and Joanne, and we've got a peer trainee role that's opened up for people to apply for that. And we've got a coordinator role that we have as well. So both Corrado and Joanne are trainers. Education is their background. So Joanne is her job title is a trainer, but Corrado used to be the trainer, now is the Independent Future Manager. And so we offer different training from all sorts of skills, from basic English math skills to computer IT skills to how to work Outlook, to how to do PowerPoint and your other Microsoft tools. We do communication training, and a lot of the training is in a group. So, we'll have, we do peer research training, which is really, we're doing a lot of that at the moment because we're trying to interview a lot of the clients that we're working with now to get their experience. We want Independent Future members or any peers to do that, and we want to train them. So we have people from University of West England come in and deliver training to Independent Futures. So we are really having Corrado and Joanne with education as their background as if staff members. We're quite hot on training and delivering different training for different things. And then also we have access to all the in-house training of Second Step, and then we have access to all the national training from Changing Futures and also National Lottery training, and other organisations as well nationally offer training. So there's lots and lots of training opportunities for Independent Future members, and then we have an induction process. So as soon as I finish this webinar now, grab my bag, I shoot over to the office because I'm meeting a potential new IF member and introducing her into how we do things and what training she wants and what she'll need to be able to participate and consult. But Independent Futures as an organization is kind of a lot of the co-production is done in that kind of consultant relationship. There is peer research and there is other ways of co-producing with Independent Futures in any way you want, really, or any way that Independent Future members want to contribute. But yeah, there is lots and lots of training for co-production within Changing Futures. SJ.
I'm going to go to, SJ, and then we've got 2 more questions that have come in. So if we could keep it short and try and answer those 2 questions, that'd be great.
As Alex mentioned, there is quite a variety of different trainings. We do have a set of mandatory training modules that anyone who joins Independent Futures has to attend in order to kind of become part of the group. And I think a lot of that is kind of about kind of team building within the group, but also making sure that people have got the support and upskilling that they need in order to succeed in the role. We also co-produce training. So there was a need recently, some of us were being asked to appear on selection panels for a service. And as part of that, we were asked to kind of consider our own biases. And so myself and Joanne, the training lead, basically produced some training around bias and then delivered that to members within IF. So we receive training sometimes from the training lead or from different members of staff, but hopefully next time we deliver the bias training, actually even more people from Independent Futures will deliver different bits of that training. So I think we learn as we go, and it's about involving as many people as possible. Yeah.
Thank you. There's a really juicy question here, and I'd like to touch on it. We won't be able to debate it in full, but I'd quite like that to be discussed. How do you balance the need to properly implement people's ideas versus remaining on track with the ultimate vision or mission of the project, which will have some parameters? So how do you balance basically the parameters and the conditions of your project with trying to respect people's ideas?
Respect people.
Tom? Sorry, Alex.
I think building up trust, I think as Alex said, respect and interest in what you're producing. I think those parameters will correct themselves. They will self-correct. And then ultimately with a deadline of a goal you need to achieve, the actual finished product, anyone involved in that co-production project will know pretty much what needs to be done at the end of it. And that will become the main focus. How to get the best product produced by that deadline. And I said, the parameters are self-correcting.
Thanks, Tom. So I was just trying to read that question again and just get it properly. So when it says, how do you balance the need of properly implementing people's ideas versus remaining on track with the ultimate vision and mission of the project? So I'm going to take people's ideas as kind of lived experience, just to make this question. So it's tricky, and it is balancing. It is always constantly just kind of trying to like spin a basketball on your finger. You've always got to keep, changing it a little bit. It's difficult because what I suppose the example you're trying to say is like, how do you co-produce and make sure everybody's diversity of idea and thought is in the product that you're trying to achieve or the outcome you're trying to achieve? Versus kind of key performance indicators. How do you balance that off each other? And it is always tricky, especially with a project like ours, because we have got till March 24 to do a lot of the learning, a lot of the system change that we want to do. So it's always, that is one of the most difficult things. It's always playing them 2 things off each other. Okay, so we need to get this work done. Is it co-produced enough? Is it trauma-informed? Have we had a diverse opinion into this process? Have we done all what we need to do to have this quality co-produced collaborative trauma-informed product? And that that is the challenge, and it is always difficult. And as Tom says, the parameters are always shifting as well, and some of them has got nothing to do with us. It's outside influences are shifting what we can do internally. But for me, I'm lived experience, that's my passion. And so if we're not co-producing, we ain't doing it right. And that's the priority for me, is to co-produce anything. And then the parameters can do whatever they want, as long as we're co-producing, and then it will all come out in the wash at the end.
Thank you. We've got one last question, which I think is a really nice one to end with, actually. If people don't feel confident starting their co-production journey, can they come to Independent Futures or you, Alex, for support and advice?
Yes. Just a quick answer. Yeah, absolutely. SJ should have the detail. Well, everybody's got our emails and stuff like that. Always contact us if you want to co-produce. And if, like, the great thing is there's lots of services doing, there's pockets of stuff, co-production, trauma-informed, there's pockets of stuff all over the city, and we've been running around trying to see what's going on and where it's going on. So if there's certain things that you want to do, and we're probably going to know people that might be doing something similar, and then so we'd signpost you or support you into that. Independent Futures do a lot of stuff, so you can always contact Independent Futures and we'll be able to show you what we do. But if that's not going to support or help you, then we can definitely signpost you to another organization that might be doing something similar or might be a step ahead in their journey of co-production.
And then one final question from Kate, asking if she can come to the April event, and I'm going to answer that one and say absolutely yes. We've come to the end of the webinar. We've got less than 1 minute left. So I wanted to say thank you to the panelists. Thank you to anyone who came and joined us today. I will send you all an email as soon as the recording is ready, so you can have the recording of this webinar and you can share it within your organization, with other colleagues and friends. I will also send you a link to the co-production principles and to the starter guide to co-production, so you'll have access to all of that. And yes, when the time comes and invites go out, I will make sure that everyone who attended today will get an invite to the April event. So thank you all for joining. It's 10 o'clock. So yeah, thank you. Goodbye.